Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Have you ever said to yourself, I want my house to look luxurious but I want to do it really affordably? Well, today's video is for you because I'm giving you 15 ways to make your house look luxurious on the cheap. So let's get into today's video. Now, don't think that I'm going to be over here spending a ton of your money. We're not doing that. People always say, hey, here's how to make your house look luxurious. You need $1 million to do it. Well, duh. Of course, if I had $1 million, my house would look luxurious, but we don't all have that. So we're going to do this super affordably using the things that you already have. The first way to make your home look super expensive is to take those curtains that you have and steam them. So wrinkles are kind of in right now, at least when it comes to the bedding. So with the linen bedding, wrinkles are in, but when it comes to curtains, wrinkles are never in. Sure, you can have maybe a little bit of wrinkle in your overflowing curtains, but if you just give them a good steam, I promise you those pleats are gonna look crisper, it's going to look more defined, and it's going to look so much more high-end. It's something really simple that can really go a long way. You should actually be training your curtains, and part of that is steaming them and pleating them. Now, if you don't feel like pleating them, that's fine, but the steam is just going to help them be longer because all of those wrinkles are going to fall out. It's going to look really nice and it's going to frame out the window perfectly, and those wrinkles are not going to detract away from those really, really beautiful curtains. The next way to make your home look expensive also has to do with curtains. So we've steamed our curtains, but what I also want you to do is I want you to add a double layer of curtains. So what does that mean? A lot of people just have up one set of curtains, right? You have one panel and the other panel, but what I want you to do is actually have 4 total panels. And I don't mean on the same bar, though you could do that as well because extra full curtains are very, very cute. What I mean is I actually want you to add a layer of sheers behind your curtains. Something that I see all the time is that people have their curtains and when they're drawn, it just really looks like a wall of black, a wall of darkness, and I don't necessarily love that. So how can we filter the light and still allow our curtains to provide their decorative purpose without being overwhelming? Well, the way we do that is with sheers. When you add sheers, you actually add another layer of curtains, right? So it filters light while still allowing you to have those decorative ones open. Sheers are also really helpful because if you have blinds up, right? If you really want that extra layer of privacy, you don't have to see those blinds, but you can still keep the window open, right? Because those sheers will really actually filter out the look of those blinds, so it will look really nice and crisp, but also serving a purpose. A lot of the times people close their blinds because they want the privacy. Privacy is super important, but if we combine it blinds and sheers and curtains, you're going to get the privacy and you're also going to get that high-end look. Because if they're always closed, the curtains are not actually doing their decorative job. Sure, maybe their practical job, but we want them to do a little bit of both. The next way to make your house look luxurious is to angle your lights. So what does that mean? So when we're in a living room or a dining room or whatever, we kind of just have those fluorescent lights just going right down upon us, which can be nice. But if we have a lot of track lights in our home and lights that are just kind of like going in every which direction, a way to make the space look really nice and moody and luxe is to actually take those lights and angle them down at the wall, especially on walls where you have lights. So of course, gallery lights are in, picture lights are in, but not all of us can do that because we don't like the battery powered ones, or we just don't have the plugs in the hallways, or we just don't feel like getting them wired. But a way you can really elevate the artwork without having to have those lights is to actually take your overhead lights and angle them down at your artwork. Therefore, the light isn't going straight down on you, it's angled at something, so it's drawing your attention to something, right? Which really helps set the scene in a space, and it just helps it feel a lot more luxurious. It also allows the light to be a little bit more dim, right? So really, really bright light isn't the most sexy, it's not the most moody, right? It doesn't really set the tone of a space, and luxurious spaces, they want to tell a story. So really manipulating the lighting is going to help you do that. Of course, my all-time favorite way to make your house look luxurious is this one. One of the most foolproof ways to really get that luxury look is to establish symmetry in your home. So in a lot of luxury designs, symmetry is just paramount, right? We see symmetry, we see the dual bookcases, we see the dual mirrors, we see the dual nightstands. Just really balancing out a space is almost a tenet of luxury design. So symmetry is something that you can really easily accomplish. You don't have to do symmetry with something that's $50,000 on either side. You can establish symmetry by using 2 $20 mirrors or 2 $50 nightstands. Creating symmetry really helps to frame out a space and really set the scene. Asymmetry, though beautiful as well, is kind of difficult to create a really beautiful vignette, and therefore it's more likely to kind of be off balance and not feel cohesive. And luxury design is cohesive, so establishing symmetry, maybe in just a minor way, maybe even with your like task lights or with your pillows, is really going to take you a long way. Now, when I say this one, I know you guys are gonna huff and puff because it's so much work, but the hospital corner always looks super nice and luxe. So making one's bed can be difficult. And even when we make our bed, sometimes they can still kind of look frumpy. Well, how can we fix that? We can fix that by really folding those nice hospital corners. And it's really not that hard. I can show you how to do it, but that hospital corner, it just takes a few minutes, but it stops all that overflowing that goes along around your bed. It just really makes the bed look nice and crisp so that when you go to steam your bed or whatever, everything really sits down nicely. When you have things overflowing out of your bed, sometimes the sheet sticks out or the quilt sticks out, it just kind of gets messy and it actually really collects a ton of dust. So this is actually not going to just help you in terms of looking luxurious, but it's also going to help you in cutting down your laundry load and kind of eliminating all of those dust bunnies. Another thing that always looks super luxurious in the bedroom is when you overstuff your duvet covers. So if you don't know what a duvet cover is, it is the pillowcase of the duvet, right? It is the pillowcase of the duvet blanket. So when you have a duvet cover, you can actually overstuff it. You can put 2 duvets in it, right? So that it becomes really nice and fluffy. So if you've ever walked in the Pottery Barn and you're like, oh wow, that bed looks like a cloud, it looks so fluffy, I just want to jump on it, it looks like a giant marshmallow, that's because they're actually using 2 duvets as opposed to 1. So what you can actually do is you can put 2 duvets in one cover, but I honestly find that to be a little bit difficult because one of them is probably going to slide around and it's really easy to overheat. So what I want you to do is I want you to actually add 2 duvets to your bed. So you're going to overstuff your bed with duvets. So we're going to have 2 duvets. Maybe you can have a heavyweight one and a lightweight one, right? So that you don't overheat, and you can fold them down and the new bed will be really nice and fluffy. And then you can take one off if you get hot in the middle of the night. And when you fold them down on top of one another, it just becomes a huge pillow of blankets. It's so nice and cozy. You're just going to want to cuddle up, and it's going to get that really nice Pottery Barn or Restoration Hardware or insert luxury store name here looking bed. Now this next one is so simple, but it might not be if you're not too good at the laundry, but the next way to make your house look luxurious is to actually bleach your whites. So many of us have white furniture, white clothing, white bedding, and you know, after some time, if you're not bleaching it, it starts to look a little bit brown or a little bit blue or a little bit any color that isn't white. And keeping your whites really nice and crisp and clean, especially when it comes to your furniture and your bedding, is really going to take you a long way. Now I know this is hard if you have linen bedding, because linen bedding is literally never white unless you buy it from one store, and it really drives me bonkers. But you want to keep your bedding really nice and white and crisp, because when it starts to yellow, it is just not a vibe anymore. It just doesn't look as nice and high end. And when you're not bleaching those whites, you're actually shifting that color of that bedding, and therefore it's not going to complement those shams that you have, those pillows that you have, and you've spent a lot of money on those things. So keeping those colors consistent is really going to help you save your money and keep your house looking fantastic. So actually do an all white load. Don't throw your whites in with those dark clothes. Please skip that, right? Do a white load, put some bleach in there or some baking soda or whatever it is you want to do to make it bright white, and I promise you, you won't regret it. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to start layering pillows. And I don't just mean putting one pillow in front of the other, though that is kind of what layering means. What I want you to do is I want you to layer your pillows in terms of size and in terms of like texture or pattern or color. So when we have a sofa or we have a bed and we have too much of the same thing, they kind of blend into one another, right? So if we're varying those sizes, it makes it more interesting. And this is most relevant on a sofa, right? So if you have a 26 by 26 pillow in the back, let's put a 20 by 20 in the front, or a 23 by 23 in the front. Let's mix it up, right? So that we can also still see that one in the back, because that happens all the time. We buy these pillows and they're stacked directly in front of one another, and so we lose the other one when they're the same size. Then not only do I want you to switch up the size, but I want you to switch up the color or the texture or the pattern. I want you to mix that up just to make it more visually interesting, because visual interest is paramount to luxury design, and that's what we're always talking about here. And the same thing goes on your bed, right? So if you are kind of layering your pillows in front of one another, you're stacking them back to front. What I want you to do is have bigger pillows in the back, then smaller ones, then smaller ones, then smaller ones, right? So that there is a gradient of pillows. I can see every single layer of pillows instead of them getting lost, and they each tell a different story, right? Even if you're staying in a really simple color scheme, it's really going to take you a super long way. Now, I want to talk about curtains again, because this is something that I see people not do all the time that I think really makes a difference. So when people put curtains up, you tend to just put a bracket on either side and your bar, and you're kind of good to go. But something that really elevates the space is actually putting in that middle brace. Now, it's something really simple, but it's just something that really sets apart, you know, cheaper curtains from more affordable curtains, putting in that middle brace. Plus, it's going to give you more support so that you can actually maneuver your curtains. When you don't put in that middle brace, it actually tends that like the bar might warp a little bit, or you can't actually close your curtains and it might come crashing down. So not only is that kind of like a safety hazard, but it allows you to actually manipulate the curtains in a way so that they can look as luxe and as high-end as possible. Plus, if you put that middle brace in, you can add extra panels to that exact bar so that it can hold up that weight. And fuller curtains tend to be higher end looking curtains. They look more luxe, they look more full, and they look fantastic. So I want you to be able to do that, but I want you to do it in a way that's safe. Now, what I also want you to do is I want you to start floating your furniture. And no, I don't mean setting them into outer space and letting them kind of float away, or putting them in the ocean or letting them float away. That's not what I'm saying. What I want you to do is I want you to take your furniture and push it off of your walls. It can be wall adjacent, it can be near a wall, it can be a few inches away from the wall, but I want your furniture to stop touching the wall, especially your sofas, unless you really are pushing up all your furniture against the wall, because that's your only choice. But I want you to take your furniture off against the wall because it helps you to segment your space better. It allows you to add layers of detail. So whether that's lighting, whether that be a task lamp or a Philips Hue lighting situation, or pillows, or a throw blanket that you put on the back of your sofa, you need your sofa to be off of the wall so that you can add those layers of detail, right? It's such a minor thing, but it's something that makes a huge difference. I also want you to float your furniture because it's going to help you better segment your open space, and segmenting an open space is really, really important. And when you do it well, the space can look very high end. Just think about it. A space that is laid out well and a space that is not laid out well, there's a huge difference in how you perceive that space, right? And we always think it looks a lot higher end when it looks, very, very beautifully laid out. So let's float our furniture a little bit more. I promise you it's going to look good. You kind of just gotta have a little bit of faith. Remember, there are tons of free modeling softwares. I talk about this all the time over on Instagram. There are tons of free modeling softwares that you can use to actually learn how to lay out things. And don't forget, I have an entire blog post on how to draw a layout, right? So if you wanna know how to do it, that's your resource to go and figure out how to do it for yourself so that you no longer have furniture up against those walls. Now, this one is super simple and it's not going to cost you a ton of money. What I want you to do to help your space look higher end is to add new shapes to a space. I talk about this in literally every single video, so I hope that you're doing it if you've been here on the channel for a while. If not, please be sure to subscribe so that you can hear me say it 1,000 more times. But what I want you to start doing is adding new shapes to a space. A space is made up of entirely the same shape. Too many rectangles, too many squares, it becomes mundane, it becomes boring, and we don't want our spaces to look boring, right? So add new shapes, whether that be via actual sculptures, your vases, your furniture, your rugs even. You can get oblong rugs, you can get oblong coffee tables, you can literally get one round vase, and I promise you it's going to make such a huge difference. We just want to introduce something new in the space, a new shape to kind of contrast our existing shapes. When everything is the exact same shape, everything blends in with one another, and then it's boring. We don't want any blending because we're not using a Vitamix. We want everything to really be distinct and tell its own story. Your spaces, your really luxurious spaces, each part of the room should be able to tell a story, and then the room together should tell a story, right? But if each part of your space is kind of boring in itself, then the entire story is not going to be very good. It's not going to be a New York Times bestseller. It's going to be like it's not going to be on any good list, right? So we just want to be really, really cognizant of that. Now, this next one is also super easy. I just want you to start adding light fixtures to your spaces. Tons of us have those can lights, right? And we're like, oh, I'm not an electrician, I can't fix that. You can, it's really easy to do. I can do it, right? Babe and I have done it. Switch out those can lights to chandeliers. You can get really affordable chandeliers on Amazon, on Wayfair. I have a ton linked over on my Amazon storefront. So if you want to check those out, I will link them down below. But change out those can lights to chandeliers. Change out that contractor grade light to chandeliers, to more interesting pendants, right? It's just going to give your house a little bit of more of you, right? A little bit more of decorative flair, and it's going to help bring your design style upwards, right? And luxurious homes have design styles that work from the literal ground, the concrete foundation, all the way up to those roof panels, right? We want the design to go all the way up the span of the house. And a way to do that, we don't want to forget about the ceiling, right? We don't want to forget about, that upper 9 feet of space. We want to add interesting light fixtures that really reflect our styles. So whether that is a drum chandelier or teardrop pendant, I want you to switch those out. You can actually just get a kit that converts a light to a chandelier for like $15 on Amazon. So it's not expensive. I've done it myself. I promise you, you can do it. And your house is going to look so much more high end. Adding those light fixtures is really one of the first things I do in a house where a client says, I want it to look more luxurious. So if that's what we're doing in interior design, that's what you need to be doing at home for yourself. The next thing I want you to do is not going to cost you one dime unless you don't have a level, in which case it might cost you, 10 dimes, right? $1. What I need you to start doing is leveling your artwork. And I know you're like, ugh, Kiva, that's so hard. It's so annoying. It's so cumbersome. I agree with you. But no one in the history of time has said crooked artwork looks good. I mean, if Andy Warhol had said it, then maybe we would have decided it's in, but he didn't, right? So crooked artwork is not in. We want it to be perfectly level. We want it to make a straight line. We don't want it to look crooked on the wall. It's just not a vibe. Where you hang your art and how you hang your art really impacts the value of the piece in the space. No, it doesn't impact its monetary value. If you paid $10,000 for the painting, if you hang it crookedly, it is still going to be $10,000. I just feel like you kind of wasted your money there. But what I want you to do is just hang your art really well. Even if you're dealing with a really, really cheap piece, if you hang it up really well, if you've scaled it appropriately to the wall, there is a chance that it can actually look really, really sophisticated in a space. So just be sure to level it. Get that level, put it on top of the painting, step back and look at it. Making those few tweaks is really, really going to make a difference. And just be sure to use small nails, right? So that if you do have to adjust something, you don't have 20 gashes in your wall that you have to spackle when it's time to move. You don't have to do it like that. Just use tiny nails to figure it out. Be sure to do this with a pal, right? It makes it a ton easier and the artwork is just going to look 1,000 times better. I promise you, I promise you. Crooked artwork is never ever gonna be trendy. If anyone says that, they gotta be canceled because it's never gonna be in. Now, this next one is one of my favorites and it's something that I've done in my own home. So a really good way to make your house look a little bit more expensive is to actually switch out those faucets. So a lot of people are like, hey, I'm not a plumber. I'm like, what are you talking about, Kiva? Well, plumbing, this level of plumbing is actually very easy. Plumbing beyond that, I don't know how to do it. But plumbing, changing a little plumbing thing can really make a difference because you know when you go to a nice restaurant, right? You go to Prime Rib, you go to Capital Grille, you go to a Michelin-starred restaurant, right? They always have the really fancy faucets and you're like, oh my gosh, being in this bathroom is just as good as sitting at this next table with my $300 steak, right? Maybe that's just me. But when you go to these nice restaurants, they have the really nice faucets, they have the really beautiful bathrooms, and a really good way to elevate your space without breaking the bank is to switch to a waterfall faucet. So it just exposes more of the water and the water runs kind of over the spout as opposed to under the spout. So it's kind of like a nice little waterfall, but like cheap, right? A nice cheap waterfall, a little, you know, it's like Bellagio, but in the bathroom. So I absolutely love it. You can get these for like 50 bucks over on Amazon. That's what I did and I love them. The water just spews out. You can get one in black, white, gold, silver. You can get them in any color. You don't have to switch up your color scheme to be able to accommodate this, but it's just like a fun little touch that really shows that you thought about that faucet. And you don't even have to do waterfall faucets. You can just switch out the faucets to kind of reflect your design style better. So if you are very contemporary, right? Maybe you'll do the waterfall faucet. If you're glam, maybe you'll do a faucet that has some like glass detailing in it to pair with like that brass and it has some really intricate hardware on that. Switching out those faucets to reflect your design style instead of keeping those faucets that they put in the house when it was made in 1950 is really, really going to help that space look a ton more elevated. The next way to make your house look super luxurious is to invest in a pill shaver. So I know I'm trying to give you tips that don't cost too much money. This is going to cost you between $7 and $13, but I promise you it's going to be the best money ever spent. So let's kind of do a fashion analogy here. Have you ever seen a shirt that had tons of pills on it, right? It looks like just like little balls of fabric up and down the shirt. It just kind of makes it look frumpy, right? There's no better way to put it. But the second you put that pill shaver or that lint roller or, you know, something that has some abrasion on that shirt, it looks brand new. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the shirt was $500 or $5. If it has pills on it, it doesn't look good. So the same thing goes for furniture. So I want you to get a pill shaver for your furniture. Now, a lot of people say to me, Kiva, I can't have a white sofa because of this and because of that. One of the main reasons you can actually have a white sofa and just keep your furniture in general looking luxurious is by having a pill shaver, because all of those pills of cloth, of dog hair, of debris, you can just get off really easily with that pill shaver and your fabric looks good as new. I would not have the furniture that I have today if I didn't invest in a pill shaver, and it's so affordable. But having those pills on your furniture, on your clothes, on anything, it just never looks good. It's not chic. And now someone in the comments is going to make the joke, well, boucle kind of looks like that. Boucle is different, right? It is a particular fiber, but that's the only time any type of pilling-esque shape looks good. So let's stay away from that and buy a pill shaver. Okay, you guys, that's it for today's video. Those were 15 ways to make your home look luxurious on the cheap, right? So you should walk away from today's video feeling confident and having some really quick fixes to really elevate your home. And if you're gonna implement any of these, then be sure to DM me pictures of your space over on Instagram. I'd love to see your updates. Now, if you like today's video, of course, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and check me out on Instagram. But be sure to come back on Thursday because we are doing a part 2, you guys. We're doing a part 2. We're going to talk about 15 more ways to make your home look luxurious. So if you like today's video, be sure to subscribe to be here for the next video. Until Thursday, have a beautiful day.